What's going on, people? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. Hope you're doing well, mate. You there, viewer. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, of course, the daily series here on Football Therapy. Alright, see what's going on about the Blues, or see what's being said about the Blues, giving you my opinion on it, but of course, as always, more importantly, asking for yours. Lots to get into today. Thomas Tuchel's press conference revealed a lot of information, stuff that I want to reflect on today and give you in terms of the information and, of course, my take on it. Ralf Rangnick, his opinion on him coming into Manchester United, his influence on him, Ben Chilwell's ACL injury, what does that mean? Huge update on that. Romelu Lukaku returning, will he start? Where is he in this team? Kovacic, Kante, lots to crack into, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you stay till the end and make sure you do consider dropping a like to show support here on Football Therapy. And as I always say, you are all welcome to subscribe, and to those who do subscribe and to people who are already subscribed, please do make sure the bell notifications icon is switched on. Most importantly, have all notifications switched on. Alright, so let's get into it. Let's talk about, of course, Chelsea are playing Manchester United this Sunday. Huge box office matchup. Despite Chelsea's good performances of late, they actually have, Man United have had the sign over Chelsea a little bit. We struggled against them, but this is a wounded animal, Manchester United. They're rudderless, they're without a coach, they're, without a system. Yes, they got a 2-0 win in the Champions League, but to be honest, if you watch that game, they weren't really that impressive. Did require world-class performances from the goalkeeper and their talisman Ronaldo again, which systemically doesn't offer a lot of confidence. But of course, their new manager, the new interim manager, who's also been guaranteed a consultancy role upstairs for 2 years after this 6-month interim, is Ralf Rangnick, a sort of godfather of sort of new age German football, a really important figure in terms of being an influence to both Jurgen Klopp and Thomas Tuchel. Klopp recently just said in his press conference, unfortunately, Manchester United have got a really good manager. Tuchel was quite diplomatic and careful to talk about him in this way of, he's not actually been announced as Manchester United interim at time of recording on this Friday early afternoon. Thomas Tuchel said, yes, he's had a huge influence on me, one of the guys that convinced me to get into coaching, and he was one of these important figures, earlier figures in German football that sort of said you don't have to man-mark all your defenders, the strikers, as defenders. He basically implemented this sort of zonal marking idea, this pressing idea, quick transitional vertical passing, exciting, functional, attacking, and positively systemic football. So, bad news for all of us that we don't know it's going to work, Ralf Rangnick at Man United. Man United have been a circus. It could all go wrong still, hopefully, for us rival fans. But I said way before, when he was originally linked a few weeks ago, that this would be an immaculate decision to make, considering the position of United, and it looks like they've made it. But against Chelsea, it won't be Rangnick, it will be Michael Carrick. So we can talk about that game in a little bit, but right now I want to give you news updates on the situation with Chelsea's players at the moment. In terms of injuries, Kovacic is still out. Not a lot of details of this, but it is really important and poignant. Yes, we've got a lot of midfielders who can fill in. People forget how good Mateo Kovacic was at the beginning of this season, getting loads of assists, getting a goal, but still also playing well like he has been for Chelsea over recent years in terms of ball progression, retaining possession, in terms of being press resistant, that buzzword that a lot of football hipsters like to use. Superb performances, but was adding new facets to his game. Tuchel a while ago said he took sort of partial responsibility for Kova's injury, thinking maybe he overcooked him a little bit. But we don't have much information on Mateo Kovacic in terms of when he's expected to return to this Chelsea side. I just wanted to offer that and perhaps pose the question, are people undervaluing Mateo Kovacic and perhaps his absence? Anyway, we'll see what happens there. When it comes to another really important central midfielder for Chelsea, it's N'Golo Kante, of course, who twisted his knee in the Champions League. Felt some pain, precautionary measure taking him off. I've said this here on the channel only recently that I think probably now, when N'Golo Kante feels even the slightest twinge, Chelsea medical staff and the coaching staff recommend that he immediately comes off, especially after what happened to N'Golo Kante in the Europa League final. Playing through injury kind of messed him up for the long term after that. Excuse me, for such an important player like Kante, be really careful and stuff like that. Get him off if he feels a twinge. His injury's not that bad. Tuchel saying about a week, we're feeling quite positive about his injury. Should he make the squad on Sunday, it would be a miracle in Tuchel's words. I don't know if that's he's sort of, playing the sort of media a little bit, like not wanting to let them know he'll be in the squad. There's a chance he'll be on the bench. By all accounts, he absolutely won't start. Now, let's talk about another player who absolutely won't start, and that is Ben Chilwell. This has been the big concern, certainly the big story for us Chelsea fans in recent days, ever since he limped off the pitch against Juventus in the Champions League. Fortunately, not stretched it off. Yet, it was his knee injury, and it is an ACL injury. Now, it's not a bad ACL injury. It's not like ruptured or torn or whatever. It's like a damaged injury. What Thomas Tuchel has said is they're not going to go for surgery at the moment, which can be both good and bad in the long term, depending on how things go. He says we're going to look at 6 weeks. And that's been the medical recommendation, that in 6 weeks, hopefully we can bring him back in, which is obviously hugely positive news for Chelsea. Of course, we'll miss him over the important festive period when you play loads of games, which is frustrating, but to have him back, a few months before the end of the season, or 2 or 3 months to the end of the season, and have him for that stretch, hugely positive. Now, he's not completely rejected the idea that Chilwell will need surgery, but they've come to the decision, the coaching staff and the medical staff, that no, we'll forget that for the moment, and we reckon within 6 weeks, a month and a half, we could bring him back into, I don't know whether that's to play or train, because they're 2 very different things. To start training again, you might need an extra 2 weeks before you're implemented into team training or whatever. But if 6 weeks is coming back to play and start for the team, that is really good news, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to chalk that one up as a massive, massive win for Chelsea Football Club. Right, another player that we want to talk about, and he was posed the question about, is of course Chelsea's new record signing and hopefully talisman, Romelu Lukaku, who of course has been absent in recent games. He damaged his ankle in a Champions League game a few weeks ago, and although he's been back in training and back in team training and was selected for the squad against Juventus, he was not utilised, Tuchel preferencing Timo Werner, which makes a lot of sense. Timo Werner came back sooner in terms of team training, and perhaps he's looked a little bit more explosive. Now, when posed the question, is he ready to start, Tuchel admitted, well, if you ask Romelu, if you ask the player, he would say yes. Like, Romelu is gagging to play. He's probably sitting on the sidelines, on the bench, watching this Chelsea team just dismantle teams like Leicester and Juventus, and he's probably thinking, bro, I want in. I should be banging goals here. I want to be a part of this sensational, in-form machine that is Chelsea Football Club. And you can understand why. But Tuchel has to make an educated decision about, rhythm and sort of rustiness and sort of, can we see him play a little bit more against an easier opponent off the bench for, half an hour. If he cooks with the team, he starts the next game, depending on the level, sort of implementing him in slowly. Now, a lot of you guys watching this might be like, guys, Jan, he's a Ballon d'Or winner. He scores loads of goals throughout his whole career. He's, your record signing. You've got to be able to just drop him in if he's fit. Maybe I subscribe to that as well. But I think at the end of the day, he's a player like everyone else, and Tuchel as a coach has to make an educated decision on whether he can start. And from what he's saying, he will not start against Manchester United. He's all very unlikely to start, I think his words were. So, personally, I can expect Timo Werner to start in the front 3 against Manchester United as a striker, purely because, personally, I don't think the Christian Pulisic false 9 experiment worked as well as I'd hoped. By the way, I was calling out for that. I was like, I think it would work. His little explosive, high-octane moments inside the opposition 18-yard box and ability to poach goals could be really useful in this Chelsea front 3 under Thomas Tuchel. Didn't really work like that. I don't think he was awful. He just certainly wasn't the shining light. So you could imagine probably the front 3 might be Callum Hudson-Odoi starting an 8th game in a row. Why not? He's looking good. He's probably feeling good. Tuchel seems happy with him. Timo Werner up front. And then maybe, quite possibly, Hakim Ziyech. But you think maybe in a Premier League team against Manchester United, you might maybe need someone a little bit more like Mason Mount. But the thing is with Mason Mount, he's been absent with his wisdom teeth injuries. You can see notably he's sort of lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of this bulk, because he was getting some muscle over the summer, but because he wasn't able to eat properly, he sort of withered down a little bit, and he's quite a lean guy naturally anyway. So maybe he's not ready to be fully implemented at the highest level again in terms of his physical speed and pressing, etc., etc. Ziyech has looked really good, and he in that second half against Juve, he worked really hard, and that was essentially Hakim Ziyech's biggest weakness coming into Chelsea. Work off the ball, pressing, physicality, defensive work, defensive acumen. He was kind of like a talented, nonchalant, audacious attacking Ajax forward. Do you know what I mean? But now he's implemented this sort of work ethic and defensive work into his play. Maybe that's the kind of thing that gets you a start against Manchester United in the Premier League. Either that, potentially Havertz as well, not playing as a 9, playing behind Werner. You'd imagine he's got good chemistry with Timo Werner still. We'll see what happens with that. But in terms of news, that's pretty much wrapping it up. We've got, absence. Kovacic, we don't know when he's returning. Romelu, probably not going to start against Man United, might come off the bench. Of course, as well, there's the underlying narrative of Romelu Lukaku against Manchester United. Boy, what he would give to dunk on Man United. He's probably a bit disappointed Solskjaer's not still there, who sold him so he could score against him. Anyway, whatever, I digress. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below on your thoughts on these absentees, the players, the game itself, and what Tuchel has said, and maybe even give me your thoughts on Ralf Rangnick at Manchester United. I think it's a very sensible appointment indeed. So before you leave, if you haven't dropped a like, I'd appreciate if you guys do drop a like or a dislike if you don't like me, but hey, that's me. Like I always say, you're welcome to subscribe, but that's it from me, friends. I'm out. So enjoy the football, and I will see you later.